Are you ready to learn from someone who went from consultant to agency owner and has been one of the first adopters for a lot of different things in his industry? This is the Scale You podcast, where every single week we're bringing on an amazing guest for you guys to learn both from life and business from. And on season 5, we've been interviewing a lot of amazing agency owners of how they started, how they got here, and where they want to go. I am your host, Lacaba, co-founder of 2XU, an executive assistant business. And if you're ready to ditch the grind, let's go over and scale you. Now, our guest today is the co-founder of Blend Commerce, the Shopify CRO agency that uses the buy trifecta of buy now, buy more, and buy again to help Shopify brands increase their profitability. Blend is a small team of CRO specialists who work with a range of e-commerce brands from the US, UK, and Canada. While many agencies purport to be data-driven, the Blend team lives this through the use of the PECTI prioritization system that ensures clients get the biggest impact from their work with an agency. Okay, guys, so help us welcome our guest today, Mr. Adam Pearce. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Leanne, how are you?
Hi, good. It's excited to have you on. I, of course, confessingly stalked you online as a good podcast host would, but looking forward to kind of sharing more of your story to everyone else who's listening in. But of course, to start off, how did you get started? Like, who was Adam before the businesses, before the agency? Who were you then?
Yeah, no, good question. Look, I had a very, strange route into e-commerce in that I did quite a few different things. So graduated from university, went to work for Accenture, the consulting firm, didn't like that, decided I was going to change the world of a teacher, and didn't like that, went somewhere in between and worked for an educational tech company. And then basically my brother-in-law decided that he was also fed up with his career. And he said, look, I've found this really small Canadian company called Shopify. No one's ever heard, but they're going to be the next big thing. And like I do my brother-in-law all the time, I say, look, just shut up. You're talking crap. It's never going to happen. And he was right. And basically, we started off in the sense of doing lots of small jobs and working with very small Shopify brands and listing, they're aware of Shopify, sort of, now a listed company, billions of dollars going through the platform. And we've kind of been there from sort of, pretty much, the very early stages right through to now. Yeah, we had this kind of strange intro into e-commerce, which I think a lot of people have, but one that I wouldn't change the world.
Gotcha. So very early adopter in a very specific niche, which is like for a lot of people is sometimes a lightning strike, that once in a lifetime you basically were in the right place at the right time kind of thing.
True.
So when you did the consulting role, what was the kind of the tipping point for you of like, okay, this might not be for me anymore?
Yeah, I think, the thing for me is I feel like I had this predisposition of what going into business was going to be like. And I think as a young guy, sort of like 15, 16, it was like, shiny suit, walking through London, leather briefcase, high flyer. And you kind of got into, the world of consulting and realized that it's not about that. It's about, look, it was about data. It was about technology. It was about being in long, endless meetings that didn't really make much difference and being a very small cog in a very big machine. And I think going into the agency world, when you start an agency, you're completely opposite. You sometimes have to do too much because you are the salesperson, the marketeer, the doer, the strategist. And I think that's what I missed. That's sort of more that entrepreneurial side of when you go and fly in a kind of a big consulting firm, because you really are that very, very small fish.
Mm-hmm. So when you shifted over and talking to so many people in the last couple of years, like that, it's kind of the same shift of like, okay, I was a technician. I did this really, really well. And I kind of wanted to do with other people. And then getting introduced to the beautiful world of entrepreneurship where everything is like, I always describe it as you have a car that you're building as you're driving through it. And you don't even know where you're driving in the first place. What was that first kind of like, I always love talking about like, what was that first dollar moment for you? Like, I always say, like, you don't really have much of a business until you have that first dollar. You can prepare all you want. You can have the branding, you can have all the marketing, but until you actually someone who wants to pay you, it's not really there yet. So what was that moment for you?
Yeah, look, our first client was actually based in California. Now, those of you who know geography, I'm in the UK. Time zone in California is very, very different. And we basically had a conversation with a guy who'd run a brick and mortar women's clothing store. And we put hours and hours and hours into proposal. We're back and forth with him. And I always remember kind of like getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning because he told me that was the decision was going to be. And literally calling my business partner and be like, we got our first contract, we got our first deal. And it was phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of people in the agency world get obsessed with over-servicing clients, you know, sort of doing too much.
Yeah.
100%. You know, I would say our probably first 20 or 30 clients got massively over-serviced.
Yep.
And so we look, actually, if we kind of want to have, you know, more than 3 or 4 years doing this, we just maybe need to kind of relax a little bit and, you know, kind of like do what's needed rather than kind of get to 200% over what we need to do each time. But that was, that I still, you know, like look back on the day fondly and kind of thinking, you know, for me, that's what I love about businesses. I think, especially in agency world, if you come up with an idea or you come up with a process for someone, them agreeing to do it is basically validating that what you're saying is right and is what you're saying is of value. And I think, you know, as entrepreneurs and business owners, that's really what we're looking for validation. And validation is in the term of, look, signing a contract, putting money in your bank account, and that still is what drives me today.
It's funny because like whenever that first client hits, it's always the basically they just say if they say, you know, jump high, you say how high do you want me to jump, and you want to do like every single thing. I remember my very first client for my agency of like, okay, now we have this, and like, oh, you want this, like we'll no idea how to do that, but we'll figure it out for you just because of you, because then you have that, again, that validation, like you said, like, okay, someone believes in my idea could work. So since then, like, what has been the growth path for you, like from the very first client to where you guys are at now? Breaking it apart to like 2 different questions, I guess. The first one is like, what is still something that is a little bit of a headache just because there's always something in the business? And what's something that you said perfect, like something that still excites you? Like telling me more about that too.
Well, I would say, look, running an agency is really easy. The growth is completely linear. I've got 3 Ferraris and $1 billion of bank account. You know,
Totally.
And I think what I would say is, our path here very much has not been linear. And I think what I would say is that, you know, in terms of that headache still now, the headache for me at the minute from an agency perspective is basically trying to understand AI and the relationship with the different stakeholders within my. So for example, if I go to a room full of agency owners, the conversation with AI at the moment is, oh my goodness, are we all doomed? Clients are going to start using AI rather than agencies. What the heck are we going to do?
Yep.
If I talk to a tech partner, they're going, well, yeah, you probably are doomed, and we've got a piece of technology you can solve it. Most clients are going, AI? What's AI? ChatGPT, we kind of use it. So there's these 3 different conversations going on where it's like, oh my goodness, there's a massive opportunity with clients. The tech bros over here are saying, look, that my business is screwed, and I'm kind of settled. That is a massive headache for me. And we are, as an agency, trying to understand what our clients, the e-commerce brands, need, giving them the things that we're using, but not trying to be kind of too doomsday in terms of like, look, this game is over, because, you know, frankly, the research and the conversations we're having, it absolutely isn't. There is, I think, more than ever now, it is about how can we get AI to do the donkey work, i.e. the really boring admin stuff, and how to sell our smarts. And I think that's what we've all got to do here is like, what's the stuff you're really darn good at that you can't bottle up and AI can't do? Sell that XP, all the other stuff, use that in terms of AI to help your margins alleviate. So that's what's on my mind. And I think like the pain. But from a point of view of where we are now, we've gone like this. So we started out like most businesses, like you said, Leanne, you know, probably the same as you. We can do everything. We're everything to every man. And you can't. And you screw up and you lose clients and people are unhappy and you're unhappy. So we flipped probably about 6-7 years ago to a retainer model. At the time, not that many agencies were doing it, but we realized from a cash flow point of view is what we need to do. There are a lot of agencies in 2026 who are still doing projects and are still having these headaches. And I would say you possibly can try and sit down and think about moving away from it. So that was our first tipping inflection point. I think after that, we also realized that actually we were too broad because we were your typical Shopify design dev agency. Now, the problem with that is that so many people came into the market and we said, look, what is the stuff we're really good at? And what we realized is it was about saying on a website, how do we understand how we can get people to buy more, how we can get people to buy again, and how we can get people to buy now if they're coming to the site for the first time, which we call the buy trifecta. We honed in on that and then became a CRO agency really properly about 3 years ago. So it's two things. It's like hearing what's going on in the market, not being too proud to change stuff, and being prepared to sort of not reinvent yourselves, but change your personality. And I think the way I think about it is like, look, you and I, Leanne, if we'd had this conversation 10 years ago, the stuff you and I were talking about would have been different, and our personalities would have been different. We mature, we change, we have different experiences, and I think you have to allow your business to do that maturing and change and adapt to the market as well.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I always think of business as like you literally have a baby and then it becomes a toddler. And like those terrible twos, I don't even want to think about that at the moment. Like what we had to go through on our terrible twos. And it's like a child. You keep, it evolves as you evolve, but at the same time, it's evolved by the people around you, like the people that you surround yourself with, and like the clients that you have, the employees that you have. It's always the shift over. And it's like, this is version 2.0 of this business, 3.0, just because like you learn also like, oh, this doesn't work anymore. Let's shift to that. And I love that you brought up AI as well, because like that's one of the things I'm always curious, like how it's affecting different industries. So for me, like I am not a tech bro, I'm a nerd. I'm an AI nerd. I'm an early adopter nerd on like anything that's out there. And that's always the thing that I'm like, okay, so how has it shifted now? So like for you, what was something that you were able to do or you had to do like before AI and after AI? What's the first thing that popped into your head when I asked that question? Like, oh, well, now we don't have to do this, AI does it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things I think for agencies generally is they overload clients with information. And we are predisposed to kind of do huge reports, all this data, do this, do that, do the other. And I think what AI allowed us to do is we have kind of an internal system we use called PECT. So it allows us to prioritize the actions we recommend. So proof, ease, cost, time, impact. Now with that was a manual process. We had to go through, sit around a table, physically around a table, and score each of these items. What we do now with AI is that because we can then basically build that scoring mechanism into a tool, it will actually do that for us. So ultimately, if we do some analysis on the site and say, look, these things need to change, what is the biggest impact? Well, actually, AI can tell us because we're putting data in to tell us where to be. So that manual, sort of messy, time-consuming piece, that goes away. Clients get more of the smarts and the actual analysis of, okay, look, here's how we're going to do it. Here's some other ideas. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's taken away to allow us to do other things that are more valuable to clients and frankly, more interesting to do.
Yeah, no, I can see exactly what you mean of like, because data, total sidebar, but like one of the things I've been kind of just doing to challenge myself is like I do like a video series of like, should you delegate it or automate with AI? And like anything that has to do with data of like reading, it's funny enough what I do is like I just will upload my whole book into an AI that I'm trying to train how I write, and then it'll just get it. I'm like, okay, if it took my assistant 2 years to learn fully like my writing style so she can write as me, but like took AI like 5 minutes to just read through my whole book and understand what it is. So those are perfectly the kind of things where AI is not really replacing it, just making it better, just making it faster, where it's the first kind of draft kind of thing. Like now then as an experienced person like you can look at that like, okay, that's right. Because you still, as the human being, bring on that experience of like, okay, I know when it looks like it, when it doesn't, and then you can correct AI, you can train it to do better basically. So I love that. That's a perfect example of that. So for you, like, how long have you had your business so far? You know, you've given me like different timelines, but so far.
Yeah, so Blend has been running now for about 8.5, 9 years. And then prior to that, I was working with my business partner in a business that he had, which called Grips On. So it's kind of, sort of 10-ish years, something like that.
Gotcha. And what's the, since I've talked to a lot of people about this, what was your like tipping point? What was the, okay, now we're out sounds cliche, but now we're out of the woods. Now we can start actually like just on the scaling part. Do you have that kind of tipping point for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in all honesty, it was probably the point at which we switched from projects to retainer based. So to sense some context, and this is the truth. We were at a point where we had zero pipeline. So literally we had no projects that would cut cash flow the next month.
Wow.
So we had, I think at the time, maybe 4 or 5 employees. And we're like, what are we going to do? Go to the bank? Do we try and put our own person in? Not that we really had any. And, you know, thank goodness we met a consultant who helped us switch this on. And we were, you know, because of the work we did in it to land it, we actually landed our biggest ever retainer, the first ever one that we landed, because we worked with very big brands and they trusted us in terms of the project work that we'd done, but we got them into a very retainer because they were well funded as well. So again, it was a bit of luck because that person was there, effectively saved us and got us thinking in a different way. But when we did that, everything kind of started to become clearer. And we could predict when we needed a member of staff, for example, which on project obviously can't. And, you know, equally, again, we could understand that, you know, look, actually, if we sign a contract for 3 or 6 or 12 months, we know where the cash flow is coming from. It was massively boom and bust before then. And, you know, it's given me kind of sweaty palms thinking about it now. Is like just not knowing. And it's lovely when you have 2 or 3 projects that land for a split second and you go, oh my God, well, yeah, but we've got to deliver this now. How can we deliver 4 projects in the same time? And so, yeah, I'm not a fan of, you can tell, of project-based work. It gives me massive anxiety. So yeah, that was...
Totally understand, but that's such a great story as well. It's like, you know, they always talk about like, you know, luck is when opportunity and you're ready matches at the same time. Like it's not really luck, like you were that person that they needed and then the opportunity popped up. And it's such an answer because you mentioned also where you were kind of one of the first to start developing that as a service. And like, of course, then everyone like, oh, now we can just go to Adam whenever this pops up, like whenever we need this. And then it makes it also easy for, I can imagine, make it easy for other people to refer other people as well to your service of like, oh yeah, no, Adam's team is on it. I've worked with them. Like it's easy to go back again. Just because we know the cost per customer and like how hard that sometimes could be or how easy it could be once a customer keeps wanting to go back or referring people as well. So for you, like I can imagine like in the decade that you've had your business, we talked about a little bit of you have to mature as well, you have to shift. What has been kind of the most meaningful, I guess, shift for you? Like a little bit personally, like what has been that like, okay, I'm a business owner, like this is who I am now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest learning for me, and we learned this the hard way, I think, you know, initially, is that when recruiting, you're recruiting for someone to add value to your business. You're not recruiting to add a work buddy, and you're not recruiting to kind of make friends. And that it makes you sound a bit cold saying that, but I think, look, I am naturally one of those people that likes to get on with people. I don't like conflict, and it's. I think, you know, look, when things don't go right, I still find it challenging, I think, to, you know, have those difficult conversations. But I worked with a fantastic HR consultant called Sarah Thompson for a number of years. And one thing she sort of told me is that, you know, look, you have to think about, in terms of when someone works in your business, it's a little bit like in an army. You have a tour of duty, and you do a tour of duty, and ultimately it will come to an end. And I think, you have to accept that, I think, in a business. And I think, look, when people leave and go elsewhere, that used to affect me personally. I thought it was a book from jump, but it's not, because ultimately people have different goals. You can't be aligned with a business and their goals all the time. And making sure, that you are, when you interview someone, you are thinking objectively about, look, can this person do the thing that we need them to do, and how much confidence having them doing that? Because you can get, blown away by someone's, personality. They crack a great joke. You think, oh yeah, I could have a beer with this guy, da, 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 da. But ultimately, that stuff becomes less important when you're not hitting target and that thing isn't being done, and other members of the team are unhappy because that person isn't reliable. So I think, you can be friendly, be personable, but always make sure that you are having some kind of boundary, I think, in terms of work and personal. And there's been a lot of this thing, we call our team the family, and I think a lot of people say, don't think of it that way. It's like a sports team. You get on, but you all kind of rely upon one another, and you also have to make sure that you play together and achieve a common goal. So that's been a big learning for me, and something that I still, have to work on and remind myself of sometimes.
Now you gave me a little bit of sense of validation, because I also went through that journey of having to learn, especially a little bit. I think for me, I started my business at 23. At that point, it was still very much people pleaser era, or everyone that I hired is my friend. We should do this, we should do that together. But I understand completely what you mean of no, you have to kind of put in boundary, because they're from their point of view, they also want to add value. They want to add bits and pieces of themselves into the business as well. But that's not going to be forever. So I've shifted my own view of as long as we part as friends, then it's good that you're going, because then that shows that you've ran my business for a little bit. You've grown, and now you've grown out of it, which is not to say anything about the business, more of where you're going. So it makes total complete sense. So you've given me a little bit of oh, okay, it's not just me. Most entrepreneurs go through this. Okay. So in the next decade, also going to the next decade of your business, as AI is growing, as science will also get better and better, as you keep evolving as well. But let's say we were able to perfectly clone you. We put you into a machine, and one Adam comes out, 2, 3, 10, 100, 300. You have a whole army of Adams that you can have run around in the world. In what way would you want to change or shift the world with that many Adams out there?
That is a brilliant question. I mean, I think over the past 2 years, I think one of the things that I've definitely kind of realized, and I guess as an individual have realized, is that what we're all looking for in reality is, it's not actually wealth, and it's not accumulation, and it's not this thing we call happiness. It's actually about peace. And it sounds like I'm being a bit of a hippie and, sort of out there, but I guess what I would say is that we are in an environment now where we are very much, focused on what can we do, what can we achieve, what can we accumulate. And I think what I've realized over the past few years is that taking a step back and realizing and valuing the things that are important, time, freedom, choices, are actually much more important. And I think, look, if I was going to actually, and God forbid, my wife would have had many more Adams than one. But, if there were, I think would be kind of spray that message to people of making sure that you value the right things, and that you chase things that give you that ultimate peace, rather than this happiness, which a lot of the time is attributed to materialistic accumulation of things. So that would be, definitely my thing that I would try and spread into the world.
Beautifully said, and I love that it's such a good vision. It's funny because we always think oh, it's hippie, oh, it's this way, But in honesty, it always comes from a person who has been through it, and it sounds like you've been through it. That's why that's kind of the other side of what we're looking forward to. So beautifully said. So as people want to connect with you, want to find you, want to work with you also, how can people find you and basically just see more of your brilliant thoughts?
Fantastic. Thank you. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Pearce, Pearce. And if you have a look on our website, blendcommerce.com, there's some great stuff on there, different tools, different examples of CRO. So if you're interested in that perspective too, then yeah, blendcommerce.com. So yeah, thanks very much. And Leanne, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the podcast. So please feel free to check out all of Adam's information. It's going to be in the description below to be able to connect with him. And if you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, make sure to hit that like button wherever you guys are hopefully watching this on YouTube. Comment below if you guys have any other questions. And of course, if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the future episodes on the Scale You podcast. I hope you guys have a fantastic and wonderful day. And all that small steps matters. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.